And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore, where we never sit out. We're your hosts, Matthew and Chris Dawson. What is going on today? It is past week 12. It is Sunday, November 19th. And we're in our last week of football. We're here to recap the week 12 games. We previewed 9 games this week. So if you want to check out that video, you can go check out that video. Make sure you like that video and subscribe, of course. If you like the content, like the video. Pretty easy rule to follow there. But we love hanging out with you guys. We're gonna go over our upset picks as well, those previews, and we're gonna have, of course, the whip around where we go around the league and also talk about some of those other games that we didn't necessarily preview, and we feel like they need some attention. One game that is not as on the whip around is Florida State, North Alabama. The reason for that being, it was not a particularly close game. I believe that final score was 58-14, 58-13, whatever it was. But the breaking news out of that one is Jordan Travis injury. His ankle looked like
awful. Just awful.
I mean, it was terrible, and sucks a lot for Florida State. It sucks a lot for Jordan Travis because he's having a fantastic year. And right around the wrong time, right when they're about to go and play in the ACC championship, because they've already clinched, right when they're going to play their rivals in Gainesville. Granted, Florida won't have their starting quarterback either. And right around the time of the playoffs. So really, really stinks. Really, really stinks because this is a special team. And they're going to have to adjust. They're going to have to do it. They get a full week to prepare for this Florida game, and then get another week to prepare for Louisville in the ACC championship game. So it sucks. It sucks. There's not much other news to report on this other than it sucks. When you lose a good player in college football, no matter if it's on, your rivals team, whatever, like it sucks because we don't get to watch the highest level of football that team could play. Like we know Florida State, we know what they're capable of, and we don't get to see their total ceiling. But and there was definitely a drop off from quarterback 1, QB2, even playing against North Alabama. It was obvious. So yeah, like I guess we move on as fans, Florida State fans. Hang in there.
It's not over. It's not over. Let me tell you,
over.
Like I'll say this: like you have a great coaching staff, you have an elite roster, elite weapons. Like everything is still in front of you. Like obviously, it sucks for Jordan, for the team, for your family. I get it, right? But like you've seen it before in Ohio State, and I'm not saying like Tate's gonna be Cardell Jones, but like there's a reason he's at Florida State. He's good enough to be at Florida State. He's good enough for Mike Norvell. He's good enough for me. So like, continue to have faith. Continue to support them. As for the obvious elephant in the room, I don't think Florida State should be punished in the committee's eyes for this injury. I think that would be so unfair to the rest of those players, to that team, for doing exactly what you said them to do, is to win. Now, if their quarterback if Jordan Travis had gotten hurt in like August, right? Like this would be, and they went 12-0, like they'd be in, no question. Problem is this happens so late in the season. Who knows? But if you win these next 2 games, I believe, and I think you will be in.
I agree. So that's a bummer. But let's just get into the games we previewed and we talked about. If you're looking on YouTube, you can see the graphic. A lot of green. Right? In our previews, we pick winners and we pick against the spread in those 9 games. I went 8-1 straight up, picking winners, 6-3 against the spread. I moved to 52-42. I believe I'm 64% since like week 7. So that's something to look out for. Kids getting hot. CD, you went 9-0 for the second time this year.
When am I going to learn to sprinkle a parlay on all
When are we going to learn
lines?
to sprinkle your parlay, like a parlay on your winners? Second time this year, you're 9-0. You moved to 73-25. You're dang near like 80%. That's pretty dang good. I think you're actually at like 75, if I'm doing the math in my head right. 73 over 98, whatever.
A little understood. Especially because like we pick these games because they're the best games of the week. We want to talk about them. They have the most impact on conference races, right? Like final season outcomes, like interesting games we want to talk about. we're not finding value in these games. So for us to like believe we see an edge here and pick one, like it's like that's why we're having fun with this and patting ourselves in the back for a job well done this week.
Yeah, and you had a monster must-win week for you against the spread, 8-1. Top that off, gets you in the positive, gets you in 48 for 46, 40 and 46 on the year.
Back above 500.
Back above 500. So as a show, we're over 500, which is pretty huge. But speaking of value, Dawson's Diner this week, a little 4-1. What have we been saying? It's on the uptick. That's winning weeks.
When it needed it, man.
Winning weeks, 3 of the last 4 weeks. So I put this 31 and 30 on the year. And I swear, I told Christopher this. I missed it, guys. I did not post Georgia minus 9.5 when it dipped below 10. That is my apologies that I did not send that out there. Would have put you 5-1. Would have looked better on Dawson's Diner. We're not going to count it on Dawson's Diner, right? Same way we won't count that Troy win on that Thursday night against South Alabama.
I think where can we find these picks on Dawson's Diner?
Oh,
if we're not
I'm
watching videos,
so glad that you asked.
If these lines come out before our weekly previews, or if they come on after our line moves late, like that Georgia line did.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna find it on Twitter. Mondays, a lot of these picks come out. I'm gonna post like most of what I have, right? Because we record these shows on Wednesday nights, the previews. So I'm gonna have most of my picks by Monday, Tuesday, getting the value early in the week, and then those are gonna be on Twitter if you want to get them. Like West Virginia -6. I believe it still closed at 6.5, and you should still have taken that. But UNLV, I think, closed at 3. Kansas State ended up closing at 9.5. Not that it mattered. But in general, like these lines quite often move not in our favor. But a late line like Louisville, if you watched the show last Thursday, you did not get Louisville +1. You only got that if you follow us on Twitter at the Redshirt Sophomore. So be sure you're following for those late picks as well. And because that's when you're going to get them. That's when the value is, right? Because in football, getting points, getting value matters a lot. Matters a ton. So on the year, I'm only 31-30, but we're going to call that wrong side of the variance bubble. That's what that is. So also, I've neglected to put 2 picks on Dawson's Diner that I had late in the week because I forgot, and that would have put us over 500 if those 2 picks were in. So, but we're not going to almost is for horseshoes and hand grenades, right? So we're not going to count those. But heck of a week for us as a squad. Heck of a week. We'll get into like those specific games, breaking those down in just a bit here. But before we do that, let's get into the whip around. Normally we have more games to cover, but I picked out about 10. That we could talk about a little bit. West Virginia, 42, Cincinnati, 21. I said it on Dawson's Diner last week. Is Emory Jones realistically going to take advantage of this terrible West Virginia secondary? The answer is no. What I did not expect was West Virginia without C.J. Donaldson to just obliterate Cincinnati. Did I watch this game? No. But a quick box score snipe will tell you everything you need to know. It was domination. Domination. No CJ Donaldson. Remember this. No CJ Donaldson. Okay. Rushing yards, 424 for West Virginia. Yikes.
154 of those from Garrett motherfucking Green, man.
Yeah.
That guy's
stud.
a baller.
Every time I watch the guy, I love it. And also, Jaheim White. This is also why I wasn't worried because I took this. I neglected to mention this. I did take this knowing that CJ Donaldson was injured and that he was not going to play likely. Jaheim White, before this game, was averaging like 7 yards a carry. Now he's averaging like 8 yards a carry. So Jaheim White is still good. By the way. That offensive line is still
from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the offensive line is still electric. That was domination. Domination. Sorry, you Cincinnati folk, you Cincinnati fans. I don't know what to tell you. Can Brady Lichtenberg take you to the promised land in the future? I don't know. You've seen him in some action this year a little bit, but it wasn't enough. And what sucks is that like early in the year, Brady looked so good. Emory Jones was balling out. Corey Kiner, you got him going on the ground game, and you just never saw it again. I guess Corey Kiner had a good game against Houston when they won. Was that Houston that they won? Cincinnati? Yeah, they beat Houston last week. So tough. Let's talk about Duke, Virginia. Virginia once again finding a way to upset. Now, are we going to go on here and slander Mike Elko for losing to Virginia on the road? Which, by the way, the talent level between this Duke and Virginia team, it's not significant. It's not a significant difference in their talent. And Duke is playing with their third-string quarterback, Grayson Loftus. So are we really going to go on
Played
here?
well, by the way.
Yeah, he played well.
Played well in the second half.
Well, I like Kevin Johns a lot, dude. I like Kevin Johns a lot. I also like Jacques more. I know he's not the starter. I know like Jordan Waters gets more carries. I think Jacques more is a dude. I think he's a dude. He also could get the benefit of being a little change of pace guy. But Calandria starts this game for Virginia, does what he does.
Super frisky.
Is he going to throw
man.
4 picks? Is he going to throw
frisky.
4 touchdowns? I mean, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? He gets frisky this game, and he throws for 278 and 3 tutters. I don't know. Any other comment other than also, I will address this. If you've been following our show for a while, when we previewed Virginia, right? The additions at wide receiver, I was not impressed with. A lot of people were more impressed with Malik Washington than I was. All I saw was, and I quote, a bowling ball with good hands. That's what I said.
God.
He's not a big guy. He's 5'9" or 5'8", 194.
Oh my God.
And he has balled out this year. He's looked like a good receiver.
Yes.
Now, is he going to be an elite NFL talent? Maybe not. But respect Malik Washington for absolutely shutting me up. You have been awesome this year, man. You have been awesome. So
for
cool.
Virginia, I do think it's good to see Tony Elliott get a couple wins here in conference. They're on a conference schedule. Like in terms of like for Virginia was tough. Tennessee, Maryland, at Maryland, and then James Madison's, obviously lost this week, but like it's a good football team. Okay. And like Virginia's not supposed to beat Miami, NC State. Like they're not supposed to beat those teams, Louisville's, but they've been competing in these games, right? They're putting up fights. They're winning Duke in North Carolina. Like that's, you're seeing progress here from Tony Elliott, which is a good thing.
One loss.
Is it going to work? Who knows? But
yeah, 1 possession game against NC State that you lost, 1 possession game against Boston College, an overtime loss to Miami, and a 1 possession game at Louisville, which you could have won that game. If you were watching that last week on the weekday, they could have won that game. So yeah, again, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? And I'm still not sold on Tony Elliott quite yet, but he's got time to prove me wrong. At least Anthony Coandrea does, because that guy is awesome. And yes, by the way, this loss does not change anything about my feelings towards Mike Elko and the Texas A&M job, or any other job for that matter. Mike Elko has done a lot to earn a better coaching job.
The thing is like we talk about with like teams that are not like, yes, Duke has played really well and have played above their standard, but especially without, their quarterbacks, like this team definitely goes down a notch talent wise. If you are not superiorly like better than the teams that in the rest of your conference, in the middle, low part of your conference, you're going to struggle to win all the games you're supposed to win in conference play. Prime example is the Big Ten West. Okay. Like all those teams are very comparable in talent wise. Unless you think, yes, Iowa, I guess Iowa's the exception that they win for whatever reason. We'll talk about that next. But like Wisconsin, Nebraska, Minnesota, like these teams are a little bit better than the teams that they're playing. That's why a team like Northwestern can sneak out wins, because like you don't have that big of talent gap. If you don't bring your A game, especially on the road, like you're gonna lose. And that's what Duke was in this game.
I agree. Speaking of losing on the road, Illinois blowing it in the fourth quarter to Iowa.
How do you not go for that, by the way?
That 4th and 1.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's the thing.
I get it, Iowa. And like a lot of times I do agree, like against Iowa, I'm a believer in you take the points. Like
yes,
you take the points
I agree with that.
Like a field goal, like to make it, yes, you're keeping a 1 possession game, but to make them go and score a touchdown, a lot different than to go down and get a field goal. Okay. Yes. And like Minnesota took that exact route and they won. Right. They put up 12 points and they won against Iowa. But like you let this team hang around in games enough, like they're gonna out execute you down the stretch. And like that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah. Analytically, like if you're watch it on YouTube, you can see our graphics. Also, if you're watching YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe, of course. And if you're on Spotify, give us a 5-star review. But of course, if you put any of these other teams up here on the graphic in that game, in that situation, I say go for it. It's on 4th and 1 on the opponent's 6. When you have a chance to really put this game away. But against Iowa, like you said, you kind of take the points. I understand like the analytics part of it, but that's where the human aspect of coaching is, knowing who you're playing. So I don't entirely disagree with it. Is that crazy? I don't know. I feel like Brett Bielema made a decision based on the team that he was playing against and not just blindly sticking to the paper, which is what I think makes good coaches. But then again,
Yes,
if they had gone for it, chances are they probably would have won this game.
we do have the benefit of hindsight, like we do, right, so obviously that plays a factor in it. But the bright side here, I like that they started John Pat. Like I know, like he talked about Altmaier, it's not going to lose his job because injury, whatever. But like John Paddock's earned that job. Okay, regardless of what happened,
well.
been playing really well, and he went on the road. And yes, he didn't put up quality stats, but that's him to drop back 47 times, and he did 49 times, and he did. And like they had a real chance to win that football game, and they didn't. Credit to Deacon Hill, I guess. 19 to 29. They're getting more creative. Okay, like Caleb Brown is really coming on. The Ohio State transfer. They had high hopes for, and they needed him to. They needed a wide
10
receiver
targets.
to come on. Yeah, which is good because they have nobody else in the offense to throw the ball to. Right, Nico Ragaini's he's he is what he is. Like Caleb Brown is an explosive player, and they're starting to use him. And they're finding a running game, explosive run plays. Like that's what Iowa football is right now. Hit deep shots, find Caleb Brown, right, and screen passes, whatever else you can do to get him open and to get the ball to him. And then, explosive plays in the run game, as well as obviously play great defense. I will say, like Kirk Ferentz, you saw it on our Twitter post if you follow us at the Redshirt Sophomore. Like that Kirk Ferentz has done a heck of a job. And normally I'm uber frustrated with like his style and whatever else. But he has done a heck of a job with his team, all the injuries, all the adversity. I get it. They have 9 wins and none of them are impressive at all. But you still have 9 wins.
Yeah.
Okay. I hate to be a backhanded compliment here, but like he should win Coach of the Year in the Big Ten. Him or our guy from Northwestern. Yeah,
David Braun. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Let's move on. Speaking of coaches, Chip Kelly on the road. Just kidding. Obviously, on the road. They from LA. They went to their home stadium to play USC, and they slopped them 38-20. So USC ends the season 7-5. Caleb Williams, 7-5. Caleb Williams, 7-5.
What a waste. We did see it though. Like there are obvious flaws on this team, and it's not just the defense. I get it. That's the easy to play the blame game, but there are flaws offensively, offensive line, like that this team just struggled with, and like for all the weapons, for all the like this is the most disappointing team in college football, without a doubt. Without it, you return the Heisman Trophy winner. You bring in another great transfer portal class, and you waste it, right? Like I get it. Like you had a tough schedule. Okay, you lost all the games you lost to were top 20 teams. Okay, top 25 teams. So I get that's frustrating. But like if you're USC, your standard is higher than everybody else's, and especially in the Pac-12. Right, like you should not go 0-5 against top 25 teams. You barely beat an Arizona team at that time, was not even peaking yet. And if you'd play them again, I think Arizona would win by 3 touchdowns, two touchdowns. I'll be respectful here, but yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I'll talk a little bit about UCLA. I mean, so that whole Chip Kelly story, like that they're planning on firing him, right? But the athletic department hasn't said anything, so like we don't know if he's actually getting fired. I don't know that he actually should get fired. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand that. Here he does his job, right? Rallies up that defense. They go crazy. goes out there with Ethan Garbers and puts up 38 points. So I did his job this week for sure. Yeah, some of the losses this year have been really painful, but they have had an absolute quarterback carousel, whether it's injuries, inconsistencies, and that's sure that's supposed to be Chip Kelly's thing, but there's also certain games where he's schemed some stuff up and he's gotten wins. So now, granted, they'll probably end the season 8-4, 7-5. The expectation was a little bit higher than that if you're a UCLA fan, but it's been a tough Pac-12. It really has. So
well, yeah,
that's a good win
and
for
the thing
them.
is about Chip Kelly, like when he took over that program was dumpster, a dumpster fire. Okay, Jim Mora did not leave it in very good condition. Fun fact here, by the way, for Arizona fans, guess who was the interim head coach when Jim Mora was like, 2017? Judd Fish. Isn't that crazy? And that's back
Stud.
4 years,
I
six
mean, they
years, 5 years later.
should have kept him, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. Lincoln Riley's fine.
No,
By the way, that whole hot seat shenanigans with Lincoln Riley needs to stop right now. With this show, if we can put a halt to
we'll,
that, I mean, they're like, can we? No one can entertain this, right? Like, I can
no,
understand being concerned, right? But to put Lincoln Riley on the hot seat is the most absurd thing that I've heard.
and here's this for you. Like, what happens if if you just flip year 1 and year 2? In year 1, you go 7 and
Yeah,
5, and then in year 2, you go what they go 11 and 1, right? And then they lost
11.
the last 2 games, 11-1. Then they finished 11 and 3 with the lost to Utah and then Tulane. And you're the head coach. Like if you flip those two, like you'd be like, oh, we have a guy like coach of the year, Lincoln Riley. Like
No, but I
let's
understand
we
though
were
that you want to see
they
progression and you wanted to see improvement on that defense, and it got worse. And you kept that
shame
defensive
on
coordinator
us.
for.
Shame on us. So this is the media's fault, I believe, because there were some obvious red flags from last year. They had crazy turnover luck, and there was no way that was going to sustain. And that
And
hit a
Jordan
very
Addison.
bad defense. And Jordan Addison, that hit a very bad defense. And this year, that turnover luck did not happen. In fact, it was flipped around in a couple games, and you saw it happen. Like this, let's hold. I get you're right though. Like improvement was needed. Going 0-5 in your 5 biggest games is unacceptable, but they'll be fine. Lincoln Riley, they're moving to Big Ten. They're going to start recruiting better. They're already attacking the trenches and recruiting, and like they understand where they need to go to. It's going to take some time, and year 1 in Big Ten might be rough as well. But like
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley, you trust him. You will always have an elite quarterback. You will always have a good offense. It's going to be about the trenches, right, and your line recruiting, and then depth defensively to make sure that you can withstand a whole season.
And getting that D coordinator higher, right?
Yeah. How about
So
Lance Guillory, man? Go pluck him away from Miami. See what he's done at Miami there.
yeah. Well, what I've said too is if whoever A&M brings in, if it's not Elijah Robinson, right, and Elijah Robinson gets it's not booted, right? Let's say the next DC that or next head coach doesn't want someone else on staff, they want to bring their guy, like that's a guy that or DJ Durkin. Let's say Elijah Robinson or Mike Elko comes to the head coach. Like I don't know. I'm just saying, or any of those guys, right? Like, what if DJ Durkin's not there anymore? You go hire DJ Durkin. Not that you, if you follow the show, and even though A&M's defense has been pretty decent this year, I'm not the biggest fan of DJ Durkin, but he can develop the linebacker position and create a little bit of physicality. I'm not going to tell you he's going to have the best secondary around town, but do need a little
You
physicality.
want him to hire you want him
Please,
to
USC,
hire
hire
people
DJ Durkin
who
away from Texas A&M. So
no, that you're absolutely right.
yeah, well, let's get into the next game. Michigan playing Maryland, 31-24. I don't think anyone expected this game to be close like this, considering that Maryland has been abysmal the last like 5 weeks.
I will say on that point though, like this did have classic letdown game coming all over it, but I do think like we all expected Michigan to be immune to that because of how dominant they've been all year.
Mm-hmm.
But they played an emotional game against Penn State on the road. And then they'd come back on a second road game. Back-to-back road games is typically where you see teams flutter, and it wasn't pretty, but they got it done.
Yeah, I'm not concerned. TBH. Like, are you that? I mean, I guess like it was the first time all year that we legitimately were like, oh, like this Michigan team, I guess, is beatable. JJ McCarthy didn't look amazing, right? But I believe did Roman Wilson get knocked out of that game?
I
I
believe
was in
so.
and out of that game. So
Yeah. The only concern I have here is not just because I haven't seen it yet. Like when they really like they haven't really been pressed, and this year this was the game they were kind of pressed in. And the thing is like, well, I'm a huge fan of JJ McCarthy's. I believe in the passing game. I still am yet to see it, and so I am still a little bit cautiously optimistic, maybe cautiously pessimistic, right in this Ohio State game coming up, which obviously everyone's talking about. The game they're deciding a playoff spot, the Big Ten East, whatever. Like we've seen it, the running game be there when they need it. The passing game, we haven't had it been tested yet. Will that be there when it needs to be there? I think it will. But again, like
yeah,
they ran the ball twice as much that they threw the ball. And that's part of that is right need for like when you're winning a football game. Okay, like that's what's gonna happen. The coaches, I'm sure the coaches aren't upset about it, but
no,
yeah, I just think like this is coming all along for Michigan. Every team typically struggles once against a team they probably shouldn't. And this is it.
yeah.
Off a
Honestly,
big
like
win on the
they
road.
haven't really had that wake up call this year, and I think like this is a good time for Sharon Moore to basically say, hey, uh, we're
Gotta be better.
beatable if you guys want to be beatable. You know,
Yeah.
I think they'll be ready. That's gonna be a great game next week, Michigan Ohio State, as it always is, of course. But
How about Rutgers and Maryland next week as well?
oh yeah,
Both teams six
absolutely,
and five. The battle of the newbies in the Big Ten East.
yeah,
Newbies, but
yeah. Well, we're with the Big Ten East. RIP. All right, enough Big Ten talk. Let's go to the Mountain West, where Fresno State blew it. They blew it.
they've been
They lose.
blowing it.
They lose 25-17. Did I watch a lick of this game? No. So I have no idea if Mikey King got hurt. The reason why this is on the whip around though is because that is their third Mountain West loss. What does that mean? That eliminates them from the potential possibility of playing the Mountain West Conference Championship. No matter what they do,
Yeah,
they're out. So they
it's
had the
terrible.
tiebreaker. They had the tiebreaker over UNLV too. So if UNLV happened to drop one, they were right there to scoop up that spot as well. Tough, tough. Kind of on a skid, this Fresno State team. These last couple weeks. I don't know what to attribute it to be honest. I mean, it's still been a pretty good season for them as well. I anticipate them, going 9-3, 8-4, and probably doing pretty decent in their bowl game. They're gonna come back with a lot of talent next year. So I'm not worried about this team, especially this team's future in the Mountain West, right? It'll be even with Oregon State and Washington State coming in and having that contract. I think Fresno State is at the top of the list of teams that can immediately compete with those two teams and their resources. So
Yep.
sucks for Fresno State. Sucks, but it is what it is. They have to move their goalposts now, figure out what their goals are for the rest of the year, and execute. So as for New Mexico, 4-7. Uh,
They needed it. They needed it bad.
I guess they needed. I mean, if they win one more game, there's a potential possibility that they could play at a 5-7. But if there's not enough 6-6 teams, I mean, but I don't anticipate that really happening. So they're likely eliminated. But credit to them, like they could have rolled over. They could have just gotten murdered by this game. This is on the road, by the way. It's in Fresno State.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the frustrating part.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. And I know that like Danny Gonzalez has been on the hot seat for New Mexico. I don't know that he's necessarily the future of New Mexico. New Mexico fans, I'm sorry if I'm botching this all or this take because I don't watch enough New Mexico football. But it's possibly time for a new change pretty soon there in New Mexico. So it's interesting to see them win a game like this. If they win that last week, it's like, do you keep getting Danny Gonzalez? I don't know if this athletic department has the money to buy him out. Actually, it might be a year by year contract. I don't have information on that. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if he got extended or if this is the last year. This might be the last year of his contract. Not sure. Anyways, if you're a New Mexico fan, please fill me in on that. Sorry for my ignorance of the New Mexico Lobos coaching situation. But speaking of New Mexico, let's go to New Mexico State. Going in, getting paid $1.8 million to beat the absolute piss out of Auburn. The absolute
Jeez.
piss. I mean, look, they won
Diego
31-10.
Pavila.
Diego Pavia is a dog. I mean, like you could box score snipe games like this a lot of times, like Power 5 versus G5, like lower tier G5, quote unquote. And you can attribute that a lot of times to, oh, terrible turnover luck, oh, bad injury. None of that. This was obliteration. I don't know. Do you have the stats pulled up right now in the game?
Yeah, it was about as bad as it seemed. If you saw this and you just said 31-10, oh, Auburn wins. They probably had 200 more yards. Right, they're very efficient on third down, yada yada yada, whatever. There were no turnovers in this game. You talked about that. Like New Mexico had 415 yards. They ran the ball. They threw the ball. Auburn actually threw the ball with a little efficiency. I watched some of this game here, but the running game, how can you not run the football at home against New Mexico State? I
Yeah.
get it.
Oh
Pavila is a
man.
stud. I get it. New Mexico State ran the ball. Jerry Kill's got an interesting offense. Yada yada. I've heard it all. Okay. Same time, like you're Auburn. This is the SEC. You have to be able to run the football and to play good defense and to win this game. If you're Hugh Freeze and you're trying to win over 6.5 games for all the bettors that took over Auburn, you have to win this football game. Right. Obviously, I took Auburn's over. Super frustrating. Like the killer. I do think Hugh Freeze will be fine here. Like, I know everyone loves to say, "Oh, Saban lost to UL Monroe in year one," but like that's a valid thing. Like, this job, it was a rebuild, right? Like, Brian Harsin did not have this thing going well. They're recruiting well, and they were playing well, competing in some games, and this was a step back. But I do think they're still on the right track. They will get it together. It's year one. You won 3 games in conference, which I know for Auburn is not the standard, but hey, you're going to a bowl game, okay, and that's step one. Step one to building Auburn back into a SEC West contender, I guess. Well, in the new SEC, just like a contender in general for that 12-team playoffs. 12-team playoffs.
Jerry Kill has defeated Hugh Freeze by a combined, I think it's 50 points like the last 2 years. I'm
Yep.
gonna say ballpark. That's a ballpark number. That's crazy. Jerry Kill should be
Obviously
on a lot of
referring.
teams' radars right now. A lot
I
of
think he
teams,
will be. And
aka Syracuse,
yep.
Michigan, Mississippi
Mississippi
State.
State.
He shouldn't be out of the picture there. I mean, Michigan State. Like
I've heard Kansas. If Leipold leaves, which obviously we want Leipold to stay there, lifetime
yep.
contract for that man.
Unless of
But
course he comes to College Station, that'd be pretty all right. That'd be fine with
I do
me.
I do think Jerry Kill was already on lists of teams that like know exactly who he is. He's a lot of respect in coaching circles. I think this is more about like getting national media attention that he deserves, and for doing what he did with the Aggies there in New Mexico State. Really, really impressive.
I think if Mike Elko moves to A&M, I think Jerry Kill would be a really good fit at Duke.
Another spot as well. Yeah, again, you mentioned it. Super impressed with how like 2 years ago this team was bottom 5 team in FBS. Awful. And they were independent. Like this team had no future there. That's what he does though. Like he builds teams and quickly he has them winning and going to bowl games. And this is obviously ahead of expectation for New Mexico State. Like this is obviously way above any expectation of any New Mexico State fan. But this is incredible. Incredible. Pavila, man. And he was hurt too. He was not 100%.
Yeah,
He gutted out.
when is he ever 100%? Come on.
But there's also a thing about like just Jerry Kill. Is he just happy at New Mexico State? Like
Possible.
he can go go to Syracuse and struggle to win 6 games in the ACC and probably be on the hot seat, or he can win 6 games in New Mexico State, 7 games, and be a hero for him. You know,
I agree. Let's move on. Oklahoma State, Houston. Reason why I put this game on there, Oklahoma State 1 game closer to clinching a chance at the Big 12 title. They just need one more win. They just need one more. Houston falls to 4-7. I mean, in the first half, it was Houston had a chance there. I mean, as a guy who has an Oklahoma State future to win the Big 12, I was sweating a little bit. I was definitely sweating a little bit, but I wasn't really like paying close attention to this game. Like I had some other games on. Uh, yeah, I mean, you look at that second half, and they kind of blew him out 24-7 in the second half. Ollie Gordon got his. Alan Bowman does his job, and they come out with a win.
Yeah, Houston started off super hot. Like that was the frustrating part, is like all of a sudden you look up and like, oh, this game started and it was 23-9. And you're like, oh, okay. Okay, Houston. And then obviously Oklahoma State stormed back, outscoring them, like 34-7. And they did their thing. But this Oklahoma State team's weird, man. It's weird. Dana Holgerson needed this, by the way. That would have been real nice for him. I know, obviously,
Does
you got the
not
big
get
win
it. That could be a
against West
job that
Virginia.
opens up at the end of the season.
Yeah,
Could be a
and that,
job that
by the
opens
way,
up.
don't confuse yourself. Don't kid yourself. This is a good job. This Houston job is a good job.
Yes.
Dana Holgerson left a Big 12 West Virginia to take it when it was back in the American Conference. Houston's not just a basketball school. This team it's got real potential. And we talked about this in the offseason, how frustrating it's been, the recruiting bed they're in, and to not see results on the field. But yeah, you mentioned Alan Bowman. He's kind of frisky sometimes. He threw that pick early, which is brutal. But yeah, Ollie Gordon did his thing. This Oklahoma State team, you mentioned it's win and you're in, right? And they're the only team in the Big 12 that controls their own destiny, which is crazy. What if I told you that back in September? Hey, this team going into rivalry weekend has to beat BYU and they're in, and they're the only team in the Big 12 that knows exactly what they need to do next week.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good for Oklahoma State. Good for me. Good for me. Thank you, Alan Bowman and Mike Gundy. And Ollie Gordon, of course. Let's move on to a game that was on the weekday, Friday night game. Washington State I mean, pancakes Colorado 56-14. Colorado 4-star decommits. Their class drops below top 60 in the country. Washington State, where was this in the middle of your Pac-12 season? Where was this against Arizona State? Where was this against Stanford? I get that you've been hurt, but where was this? The moral of the story of this game, though, is one, Cam Ward is still a pretty good quarterback when he has help around him.
Oh, yeah.
Two, Travis Hunter is still really good at football. I thought he played lights out. I know there was that highlight of Victor burning him or Williams, whatever, burning him on a route or whatever. That happens when you're a corner. All right. As a receiver, Travis Hunter was awesome this game. I know, what do you have? Only like 4 catches, but it felt like he earned every single one. He's still a really good football player. And it'll be interesting to see what this team can do, because there's a lot of scholarships on this Colorado team that that are kind of stuck there, because these are kids that transferred in. They can't transfer out again, right? So, like, how do you make room for more guys, right? How do you make room for more guys?
The thing is like, you can, and it's ugly. It's not pretty.
It's ugly.
And I do have respect for Dion. I do think he's got good morals. I don't know if he will do it, because that's bad. How can you convince a team, hey, come here, you come use your transfer waiver, and then you're like, no, I'm going to kick you off the team. Go enter yourself in the transfer portal. The thing is like, we saw the reality of, now there's a lot of holes in this roster. Obviously, the defensive mess, the offensive line, right? But like, we saw what happens. We saw a glimpse, maybe in a preview, if Shedeur Sanders decides to clear for the draft, this Colorado team is in serious trouble for next year.
I don't think he will,
unless they find a transfer quarterback. But at the same time, like,
I think
everyone wants a transfer quarterback. I hope he does, for Colorado's sake, for college football's sake. I hope he does. But
yeah, goodness
and
gracious.
he can make as much money in the NIL as he can as a rookie. But does he want to stand behind that O-line and just get slaughtered, teed off on? Now, obviously, you'd hope they'd improve it year over year, but they got some stuff to do. And you mentioned it, though. Their transfer portal, like, it's going to be hard to free up spots. That's where you have to hit in high school recruiting pitch to these guys, hey, listen, like if you're ready, Jordan Seaton, right, the IMG offensive tackle, if you're ready to come in and play Division I football right away, which he is, come to Colorado. You will be a class builder. You will be the gem of the class, and you will be the face of Colorado, and alongside a Shooter Sanders on offense. Like this, yeah, it's tough. Now, obviously,
It's
but
tough.
like again, we do have to take ourselves back to the summer. Like, forget what happened in September where they beat a bad Nebraska team, they beat a bad TCU team, and they barely beat Colorado State. Like this team had low expectations, and they have met those low expectations. That's step one in Deion Sanders' process of overturning this Colorado football team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of brutal, it's brutal losing to Northwestern. But
Hey, 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 hey.
6 teams this year have lost to Northwestern. So unbelievable. I think that there's a recording out there, I think, of both of us saying that there is a 0% chance that Northwestern makes a bowl game this year. I don't know verbatim what we said, but it was somewhere along the lines of this team is terrible. And David Braun officially gets the win, gets bowl eligibility, gets the job
Yeah,
after going in
deservingly
this year
so.
as the defensive coordinator. Then the Pat Fitzgerald scandal happens. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, Purdue, it's not very flattering of a team. Not much to talk about there. 3-8. Tough year for Ryan Walters in his first year. But goodness gracious, man. And like, I know Ben Bryant played in this game, but Northwestern's won games without Ben Bryant at quarterback. Like this is a wildly impressive coaching job this year. They lose Malik Washington, who by the way has like 1,300 yards over at Virginia. I mean, they lose what they had like 4 draft picks. Evan Hall, uh, the tackle from Maine South Illinois.
Peter Skronsky.
Yeah, Skronsky. You had Cam Mitchell, gone, and the defensive
The
end that
D
went to
end.
Indianapolis,
I forget his name as
who's
well, but
who I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his last name, but you lost all those guys and you replaced the talent with like I guess AJ Henning's a really good player, and then Ben Bryant. That's
Bryce
it.
Kurtz. Bryce Kurtz, man. Don't fault my guy Bryce Kurtz, the Minnesota killer. No, but yeah, you mentioned it though. Like a team like Northwestern does not lose 4 draft picks, lose and go and win, right? 6 games the
After
year after.
winning one game last year, none in the United States of America.
And that was against Scott Frost, so that doesn't even count. The thing is
Yeah.
like, oh, this is awesome. This makes me really happy. Northwestern, those kids, like those kids were a lot happened in the off season. A lot happened. That's all I'm gonna leave it at. And like to get this win, to be bullish, but you have a real chance to beat Illinois, right? Like Illinois, yes, they're playing better football, but that line's under a touchdown. You got a chance to go in there and get 7 wins. Regardless, though, this is a
And
wildly
keep
successful
Illinois
season.
from going to a bowl game. Could you imagine?
Yeah, and you'd be 5-4 in conference play, which is just incredible
Yeah.
for Northwestern. They would finish, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, they'd finish second in
Yeah.
the Big Ten West, which
Yeah.
is not much, but like that's still something for them.
That's absurd. Yeah, for this team, that'd be crazy. They've accomplished their goals and more for sure. They've been
Yeah.
awesome. That's it for the whip around. Hope you guys like that. We love doing that. If there's some games that we missed, or some games you want to hear us covering the whip around that maybe aren't, the main event per se. Because there's a lot of good games next weekend. We can't get to all of them in our previews. Let us know if you'd like us to cover them in the whip around. So let us know in the comments. Tweet us at the Redshirt Soft. Email us at the Redshirt Sophomore@gmail.com. And if you're gonna do that, like the video, please. I know we keep saying it, but it helps us out so much. We appreciate you guys. We love doing this, and you guys have supported us so much. So thank you. Let's get into it. Washington at Oregon State. This was a game that we went head to head in.
Yep.
I took Oregon State and the points. You took Washington and the points. Well, you took Washington straight up. But and when this game, you saw the weather, right? The rain, the torrential downpour that it was in that game. I thought I had this on lock. I know Washington got off to an early start. I thought I had this on lock. I'm like, Oregon State, the way they play football at home in this weather, this
They
is
don't.
meant for Oregon State. I'm like, they're gonna go beat Washington. They're gonna go beat Oregon. No, I'm kidding. But I genuinely thought Oregon State was gonna win this game, and the credit goes to Washington. Credit goes to Rome Odunze. Credit goes to this defense stepping up in the second half. In key moments when they did, shutting down Oregon State. Now Oregon State shut down Washington in the second half too, but they did enough. So I'm impressed with this Washington team. In that regards, finding a way to win doesn't change the fact that I think Oregon is a better team than them. But man, this Washington team is undefeated. They're 11-0 right now. They're
They,
they're a
they
good
just win
football
football
team.
games. They just win football games, and at the end of the day, like that's something we have to value. And I think Washington, it's just like because they weren't beating teams by how much they were favored by, like you were like slowly dropping them, but they were still winning football games. And Oregon State, credit to them, they fought hard. They came back. They were down 12 points at halftime, and they mustered a nice comeback in the second half. The rain, you thought it'd help them, and it did for a little bit, I thought, but I don't know. I thought Washington did a really good job. I did a really good job. Michael Penix made plays when he had to. Sure, the stats weren't incredible, 162 yards, whatever. He made a couple plays on the ground, including a touchdown, which is big. Dylan Johnson ran the ball well, and their defense got turnovers. 3 turnovers. DJU, two interceptions. Come on, under 50% passing. Like to
Big
me, that
game
was the
you.
keys of the game. That's what I'm saying. To me, that was why I was fading Oregon State was because, yes, I love Damian Martinez. I love that defense. I love that environment, Corvallis, Jonathan Smith in big games. I love it. But DJU, like, I did not believe he was going to go in there and because he was going to have to make plays when he needed to, and he didn't. He didn't make enough. Okay, I'll say that. He didn't make enough. And obviously, it hurt him in the end. I would like to see him use his legs a little bit more. He did a really good job of it when he did. But, like, I would have loved to see him continue to add that element to his game. Rome Odunze is just awesome. Although McMillan's back healthy, but he did not have any catches. Like that was a little bit weird. I don't know how limited he is, but he'd be a huge boost for them
I mean, there were
in a
not a whole
potential
lot of
Pac-12 game.
catches to be had in this weather, to be honest. I think he had
Besides
a pretty
Odunze,
brutal drop, if I remember. But
well, a lot of drops happened in Washington, especially right when it was really, really pouring down rain, which is to be expected. But like Michael Penix, his stay could have been better. He could have easily been over 200 yards. With all that, yeah, you mentioned that. Like I still think Oregon. I'll probably pick Oregon to beat Washington, but again, like there's something to be said about a group of seniors that just want to win football games. And yeah, like will it carry them to a national championship? I don't know, but like it can do you wonders in close games, and that's what this was. And it wasn't pretty, but they got it done. And to be honest, like I thought that was the more impressive part about it was like another game where you're playing in a big game. You played Oregon early in the year. You played Oregon State this game. You just found a way to win when you had to in the fourth quarter. And like to me, that's impressive. Even though
yeah,
you didn't blow them out, right? But you were underdogs on the road, and you got to win.
getting the
Enjoy it.
stop when needed to get the stop.
Yeah.
So because Oregon State, they were driving in the last possession. Didn't convert a 4th and 5. So yeah, I
And
mean,
then Penix had the nice back shoulder to Roma Dunze, right,
mhm.
to seal it, which was a wow. First of all, that's kind of crazy play call. But again, like that's who I want. I want Penix with the ball in his hands on third down. And then Adunze is probably the the guy I would love to be throwing it to, ideally.
Yeah, it's Washington plays in the Apple Cup next week. I believe they're over. Are they 2 touchdown favorites in that game or 10 point favorite? I don't know what the line
They
is. I
they
guess I can have you check on it. But and Oregon
I'll
State
check it.
plays in the Civil War against Oregon or whatever that's called now. I know people don't want to call it the Civil War, but both those
By the
games
way,
have the potential.
Washington,
Say again?
real quick, Washington's favored by 16.5 against Washington State.
Yeah, and
Right.
I
But that's
believe
at home.
Oregon. I
And
believe Oregon is favored by 14 at home. Oregon, the Ducks, favored by 2 touchdowns at home,
um
which is a
Oregon
lot of points, by
State.
the way. Just saying.
Yeah, 14.5.
It's a lot of points. Uh, those could be this could be upset meter games. Not gonna lie, those could be upset meter games next week.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of the rivalry and the nature of the way the teams play. So season's not over for Oregon State. They could go 9-3. They could go 8-4 and then win a bowl game, be 9-4, and that's a good year for the Beavs. I mean, they won some
In a
really nice
really
games
good
this year.
Pac-12.
Yeah, and then they lost some games against good teams. Boo-hoo. I mean, sucks because I think the expectation for a lot of Beavers fans was 9 games, 10 games, Pac-12 championship maybe with this offensive line and Damian Martinez and bringing in DJU, retaining coaching staffs. But they were just a little bit outclassed in some of these games, just a little bit. But that doesn't mean that's not to say that they couldn't have won this game because they absolutely could have. They had a chance to win this game. So, but season's not over, especially for Washington, who has a chance to win the Pac-12, make the playoffs. But yeah, this is a really good game. As sloppy as it was, especially in the first half, the ball just flying everywhere. This is a good game between two good teams. Tennessee versus Georgia. Boy, oh boy. Sure, Jalen Wright had that, 75-yard run or whatever to open up the game. Was not worried, this guy. I was not worried at all. We were both on Georgia. We both took a minus 10.5. That line dropped to 9.5, 9 on Saturday morning. You better believe that I took that. And yeah, it was cash. This Georgia team dominated. Carson Beck once again looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Joe Milton does not look like that. Does not. So this is domination. This is Georgia once again looking like they're getting ready to hurt some people this postseason.
Yeah. I I do think Alabama has a chance to win that game. I know this is not about Alabama, but like Georgia looks good. And like Tennessee, yes, you lost by 28 points at home. That sucks. Like that's quote unquote embarrassing. Obviously, you're not happy with that, but like this Georgia team is a wagon right now. Carson Beck is playing as good as anybody in the country not named Jaden Daniels. He is tremendous. He makes big time throws down the football field. They have elite wide receivers. Brock Bowers got his a little bit. Today was Dylan Bell. Like even I believe Dylan Bell will even throw a touchdown. Like this is just a really good football team. Kendall Milton's starting to get better. Dejan Edwards didn't run the ball quite as effectively as you wanted him to, but he was still did enough. Yeah, this team is just up and down loaded. They're getting healthy. Their O line looks great. But like at the same time, like Tennessee was a little bit overvalued, right? Based on their losses, right? Based on what happened in all of them. But yeah, this is a good Georgia football team. Tennessee, you got Vanderbilt next week, and you better win that football game. The problem is you're gonna be 500 in conference play again, and that's kind of been a familiar thing for Tennessee the past decade, and that's kind of frustrating after the year you had last year. Um, Obviously the Florida game you'd like to have back, but the O line was not there, and that obviously caused a lot of problems for you. But yeah, kind of is Nico the guy next year? Is that really what it is? But like the Joe Milton experiment it's obviously not worked as much as you would have liked it to.
Yeah, he's not good. I
Well, I mean, he's not good against Georgia. He's not going to beat Georgia.
like there were not a lot of games this year where he was an X factor. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
I mean, he was an X factor for one half against Alabama. He was not good against Texas A&M.
mm-hmm.
He was, I, I guess, okay again. No, he wasn't even. I'll say in the first half against Virginia was not that good. Virginia, he struggled until the second half. I just there were not a ton of games this year where he played really magnificent football.
Fair.
So, whereas Carson Beck is awesome. I think he's playing himself in the quarterback 3 spot right now for the NFL draft.
Oh,
Yes, me.
he's making himself a lot of money. I think George is going to have to find a new quarterback next year.
Let me ask you
And
this: what quarterback in the last, I'll say, 12 years, what quarterback in the last 12 years for Georgia is better than Carson Beck?
Okay,
Like
Aaron Murray. Aaron Murray's a dog.
he was a dog, but
Pun
is he?
intended.
Did we know that he's? Are we sure he's better? I know he's got like a record, like the career
Well,
records, but if you give
he
Carson
did
back
that for 4 years,
years,
3, 4 years. Oh yeah, obviously, and Carson Beck was playing behind Stetson Bennett, but he also has the benefit of like not take anything away from Carson Beck here. Like, yeah, I would say like the point here is like there's a
is
legit
this Georgia
conversation for
team
him.
that much better than that Georgia team that was a batted ball away from going to the national championship?
No, no, these teams are comparable, and like that's the crazy thing about Mark Rick is like he was that away from having a national championship. Regardless, though, like like Carson Beck is a stud. He is a stud for all the question marks. We talked about it, like Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, like those three teams were having to replace quarterbacks. And Carson Beck, yes, he's the elderman of that group, but there are a couple other third year guys, right? Jalen Monroe, who's playing better, by the way, and Kyle McCord, who's playing a little bit better as well. Carson Beck is playing elite. He is a legit strength for Georgia. But come on, Aaron Murray is an SEC legend.
I know he is, but I'm saying like in this season, like
Yeah.
I could see the argument being made. Like the
Well,
career, the accolades, the Hall of Fame career, the Georgia Hall of Fame career that Aaron Murray had, obviously it's very memorable. I'm just saying the talent of Carson Beck.
oh yeah. I mean,
I think he's more
Carson Beck's a
talented
first
than
round
Aaron
pick,
Murray.
in my opinion. Like he will be a first round pick. Or he should
Maybe
be.
I think he should be too. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm not interviewing him. I'm not a professional NFL scout, but I think he's a dog. So
For all the rumors out of Georgia that were like we feel really good about Carson Beck, even though like the spring game wasn't pretty, whatever. Like the rumblings out of Georgia the offseason was Carson Beck, they believe in 100%. And that has turned out to be a hit.
yeah, I got some flack for taking Carson Beck in our quarterback fantasy draft over KJ Jefferson, and
You took him
I
over
don't
Jaden
know.
Daniels, though.
Well, I did, but
In
that was
hindsight, we both messed up on that.
in behind. Yeah, I guess. To be fair though, like they were both kind of in quote unquote quarterback battles where Garrett Nussmeier was kind of breathing down Jaden Daniels' neck, especially last year. Like LSU fans in the offseason were like, are we gonna say Garrett Nussmeier? Oh, we can't hit our ceiling with Jaden Daniels. Let's see Garrett Nussmeier. You know. So I stayed away from that aspect. But I just felt really good about
Special teams
Carson
coach.
Beck. Comes to
Are we
fruition.
get,
Feels good to be right.
what happens with George? Like, by the way, I heard this that today 8-0, 3 straight years for Georgia in the SEC.
They're about to go 12-0 for the third straight year in the regular season.
Well, Brent Key might say something about that.
Okay, all right. Let's move on.
The Yellow Jackets. They're my guys. I can't let that slander happen.
Utah at Arizona. Arizona's favored by 1. They won by a lot. Was that 24 that they won by? 42-18. Noah Fafita looked awesome. You know who did look good in this game, though? Well, aside from the interceptions, Bryson Barnes kind of threw the
Oh
ball
yeah,
around the yard a little bit. But
they moved the ball well most of the game, which to me was like that was why I picked Arizona. Was like I don't think they can do that down to down consistency, and they really did. Obviously, the turnovers hurt them by not being able to sustain like
the
finish
landslide of
drives.
the first quarter that was 21-0. Were they up 28-0
It was
at one
28
point?
nothing. Yep.
Jeez. Yeah, it was a landslide and fast. And it was right away we both knew that we'd both cash when we picked Arizona -1. So
Dare I call Arizona a wagon? Dare I call them?
dude, they're so good, man. Like
They're
if Oregon
10-1
State
right now against the
if Oregon
spread.
State beats Oregon, I don't know what the tiebreakers are, but I'm pretty sure Arizona can get in the Pac-12 championship if Oregon State wins.
I think I assume it would have to be something with conference wins, and depending on like the outcomes of the week 13 games for the Arizona's opponents versus the Oregon's opponents, whatever, like, or they're kind of like I don't know exactly, but they're still mathematically not eliminated. And to be honest, I would love to see Arizona another crack at Washington. Now, obviously, everyone wants to see the rematch of Oregon, Washington, but you mentioned it. Arizona and Fafita are just playing so well that whoever gets them in a bowl game, good luck to you.
Yeah. So Arizona and Oregon did not play each other this year, right? So if Arizona wins next week against Arizona State and Oregon loses to Oregon State, this is the tiebreaker for it to play in the conference championship, assuming Washington wins, right? Which actually it wouldn't matter, I guess. Washington's already
They've already
clinched.
clinched the spot.
They've already clinched. So win percentage against the next highest placed common opponent in the standings, based on record in all games played within the conference, proceeding through the standings.
Oregon State.
So, what?
Their common opponent would be Oregon State.
Well, and that with the highest win percentage, and that would be Oregon State, and they'd be 9-3. So Arizona would actually get the tiebreaker over Oregon, as crazy as that sounds. And they would be playing for the Pac-12 championship, a rematch against Washington, which, by the way, they could have won that game.
Oh, yeah. Fafita, man.
So
Fafita. How about Judd Fish, man? How about a round of applause for Arizona and Judd Fish?
Jedd Fisch is a stud. I would love it if he was an Aggie. I know you Arizona fans in the comments hate me saying that. I know you guys hate me saying that, and you say it's not possible. I don't know. Your athletic department, so there's a lot of money to be paid out in places. So yeah, it'd be terrible for the football program, but I don't think the athletic department would hate getting a nice little buyout there.
No,
but in all seriousness, this is a very good Arizona team. I love watching this team. I love watching Noah Fafita. I love the way that their defense plays football. Johnny Nansen, I'll say it again, has been doing a fantastic job. Their secondary's been good. I know they gave up 320 passing yards, but generally all year it's been really good. But yeah, so Arizona has the tiebreaker over Oregon. If I'm reading this properly, right? If you Arizona fans in there, if I'm not reading this right or interpreting this right, then please let me know in the comments if I'm not. But it seems like win percentage against the next highest placed common opponent in the standings based on record in all games played within the conference proceeding through the standings. So it's actually conference record win percentage. So, I guess
still be Oregon State.
Yeah, but if USC win, it would be Oregon State. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Should have beaten Washington, Oregon. Should have beaten Washington. No, I mean, in all likelihood, Oregon wins that game. It won't matter, but I think Arizona, give them a nice bowl game. Give them a good bowl game. I want to see them square off with a good team.
Yeah, but I do believe
I want to see Arizona. I want to see Arizona play Clemson. I want to see them play North Carolina. I'd want to see Arizona play LSU. I think those would be really good games. I think that I don't think people should be leaving off the table. So,
no, I would do want to say this here. Like, Oregon State versus Oregon is the Friday before the Saturday. So, like, Arizona will know their outcome or will know what they're playing for in Saturday, which will not change how they play. I don't believe. I think Jedd Fisch and them, like, they're gonna play hard no matter what. They want to win 9 games this year, but yeah, if Oregon does lose, they're gonna be looking at Arizona and be praying for Arizona State, which it's probably not the team you want to be relying on. But regardless, so in terms of Utah, let's talk Utah here. Kyle Whittingham. Obviously, the big news today, this weekend sucked for you. I know watching that game, you're not used to, but Cam Rising's coming back. There is light at the end of the tunnel. You will, hopefully, injuries will be better next year. And I hate to be already thinking about next year for Utah fans because you do have another game next week. And obviously the bowl game, whatever, yada, yada, yada. You'll probably beat Colorado. You should. But, wow. Good for Cam Rising to be back.
Good for Cam Rising. Hey, good for this Utah team. They need that boost at quarterback going into the Big 12. Even though Bryson Barnes has played half decent the last couple of games, Cam Rising is a different level, though. He's an absolute – I'm not a game breaker, but he is a good college quarterback. He's a plus player at that position.
And he'll be 20 months removed just about. And that's where you start seeing, like, okay, now we're back to 100% especially for quarterbacks, right, off that ACL injury. We know he had a little setback, which obviously is frustrating for him. But, yeah, the Utah team, I don't fault them for this. Like, Arizona's a really good football team. You're all on the road, and they played their game, and they jumped on you. And that's just what happened. But credit them for fighting back. That's Preston Martin throws the ball 53 times. And if that's gonna happen, you're probably not gonna win the football game. But we did well. We did well. You got a guy there, maybe after Cam Rising, you know.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. And Kyle Whittingham, I think he's still done a fantastic job this coaching season. Maybe
Yep.
he's not Pac-12 Coach of the Year, but there are not a lot of coaches that could do what he did this year with this squad, with this injuries against that schedule. I
Yeah.
really believe that. So I think he got genuinely the most out of his players that he could have possible.
This team is
So
also like physically beat up, right? You played so many physical rosters. Florida,
yeah,
not going to throw Baylor in there, but that's on the road at Baylor, UCLA, Oregon State, Oregon, Washington, and then Arizona. Those are all physical football teams. Maybe not Washington, but like those are all physical football teams. And yeah, sometimes you just run out of gas, especially when you're hurt and banged up. Like it happens. Utah is
yeah.
finally human in the Pac-12. They're finally human.
Look, and Cam Rising's gonna be 25. Dude can rent a car to drive to these football games that he's gonna be playing in next year. I cannot wait to take
In the
that
Big
over.
12.
Whatever that over's, I swear that over is gonna be at 8.5 again. I know it didn't hit this year, but you better believe I'm coming back and going hitching myself to the wagon once again. Let's talk the Sunflower Showdown. Let's talk Kansas State at Kansas. How about the coaching job that Kansas did to have a chance to win this game? They were up in this game for almost the majority of the entire game. And no Jalen Daniels, no Jason Bean. That's right. True freshman walk on Cole Ballard comes in this game. Granted, only 162 yards passing uh, as a team,
And the two interceptions.
the 2 interceptions, but they put up a good number of points, and they
They
did
had a
not
lead. They had a 2 possession lead
and they did
in the
not
second half.
and they covered, and we both had Kansas State to win and cover, and boy, they gave us the business in terms of that spread, but Kansas State was on Dawson's dime. So I think if this team was to play again, like you saw, like later in that game, you saw the difference in the talent. You saw Kansas. Also, by the way, how many times have we said Chris Kleiman is the best second half coach of all time? How many times have we said it? 800 bajillion times. He's
Yeah.
electric in the second half. He figures it out every time. And I love him for that. So,
I do think the takeaway here though is like, yes, everything we know about Kansas State, like I think we kind of saw play out. You mentioned the second half, Chris Kleiman, yada yada yada. DJ Giddens, good player. The defense makes plays when they need to. But Lance Leipold, if you didn't already know that, he is a hell of a coach. I do not think you understand, or it's being understood how impressive that coaching job was to jump on your rival like that, right? And to put yourself in a chance to win a football game. You had the ball, fourth down at the 11-yard line of Kansas State to go ahead and take the lead. And obviously, your true freshman quarterback couldn't do it. He got intercepted. Brutal, but man, Lance Leipold, if you needed another audition for another head coaching job, aka Texas A&M, aka UCLA, maybe if that opens up, like
Michigan State.
he's gonna be at the top of a lot of teams as he should be. He's up to Kansas and that AD and that department. They can keep him on board, which I know we would
Plenty
love.
up.
And Jalen Daniels coming back is huge, but
Yeah. This
Devin
could be
Neal,
and this could also be the last Sunflower Showdown between these coaches because of Chris Kleiman. Like, what if he gets the A&M job, right? I mean, I've
another
heard his
true.
name around. I'm not sure if he's like an actual candidate for Texas A&M, but it's not crazy to speculate that he could be up for a job like that because of the job that he's done at Kansas State. And if you give that guy resources, I mean, that would be pretty crazy. That'd be pretty crazy. I don't think he leaves Kansas State for Michigan State. I don't think he leaves Kansas State for UCLA. I think the tier 1 job that is Texas A&M, though, I think you could make an argument that he would probably leave if he was offered that job. So, but I mean, good on Kansas State coming back in the game. Good on Will Howard doing enough. DJ Giddens had a really nice game there. So these are two pretty good teams. I think with healthy Jalen Daniels, I think this Kansas team is a top 25 team because of the way their defense somehow just creates turnover after turnover after turnover, and they win ball games. But a 7-4 season, a 7-5 season, an 8-4 season is a great season for this Kansas football team, and they need to continue building on that. And I think they can. Especially because of NIL money coming in from that basketball program. You start sharing the love a little bit. Like, we know the NIL fund is there for that Kansas program. We know it's there.
It's about the distribution of it.
Just gotta share the love a little bit. Give Lance Leipold just a little bit, and you know what? Lance Leipold, he doesn't complain about it. He's not like Mark Stoops complaining about, we need to. It's not Lane Kiffin saying, we got to recruit better. Lance Leipold just goes with the boys that he has and wins football games.
Well, and the thing is if Kansas is smart, like, they're gonna give him what he wants, right? Mark Stoops is not. He's a very good coach, well respected, but like, if you don't give Lance Leipold what he wants, like, you're risking him walking out the door. And it's like, if you're Kansas, you have to know the value of having a successful football program. And with the power grab that's going to be the Big 12 next season, Jalen Daniels and Lance Leipold gives you a real chance of being in tier 1 of the Big 12.
And Jalen Daniels coming back?
Yeah, which would be awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
I love it. Let's talk more Big 12. Let's talk Texas at Iowa State. This game probably should have been uglier than it was. It ended up being a 10-point game. Texas doesn't know how to score in the red zone for whatever reason. They just rely on explosive plays. But if you were to tell me that Iowa State had 9 rushing yards and Rocco Beck turned the ball over this game, I would have been like, yeah, Texas took care of business. And they did. Any comments from you on this game?
The thing is like, the D line of Texas is real. Like, I think we all understood that, but there was an obvious mismatch there. Sweat and the boys up there did whatever they wanted, and it wreaked havoc. And somehow Rocco Beck still balled out. He still balled out.
Love that kid. I love that kid.
Quinn Ewers' numbers look good, and like, they put up 26 points, whatever. But something about that offense, like, it should be a lot easier than it is, in my opinion. It should be a lot easier, and I get it without Jonathan Brooks, but CJ Baxter looked damn good as well. Finishing in the red zone, like, you got to be able to do that if you're going to want to compete, right? Or if you're going to want to not lose, slip up to, I believe it's Texas Tech next week, and then probably Oklahoma State, I guess, if they win out. But if you want to compete in the college football playoffs, like, you're going to finish drives. And gosh, I don't know. They moved the ball so well, like, in between the 20s, and then they get down into Iowa State territory and they couldn't do it. And obviously the credit goes to Iowa State and that coaching staff, whatever. But you're too talented if you're Texas. But at the same time, like, when they need it, they get it too, right in the fourth quarter of these games. And you got it done.
Yeah, I mean, I faded you. You took Texas to win, and you took Texas to cover the spread. I took Iowa State to cover. Iowa State had a chance to cover. They absolutely did. That field goal there with about 6 minutes left put it over for you. But I will say that it was a deserved cover by Texas, to be honest, based on the way that these two teams played. So the question is, I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Like, is this good enough for like what can Oklahoma State do, right? Assuming Oklahoma State wins out, like can Oklahoma State beat this Texas team?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. Like, this Texas team is super beatable. Now they're over 9.5 cashed. So, like, this is a good season for Texas. Like, just
I think it would have to be like a master class coaching job. Like, it'd be because I don't think they can. Like,
which
I know
we've
Oklahoma
seen
State
before.
can run the ball. Like, Ollie Gordon is a freaking stud. We've said it over and over and over and over and over and over again. But no team has been able to run the ball in Texas.
That's the thing. You're running into
so they would have to go in that game
of that
defense. They can't go into
defense.
that game believing that they're going to be able to run the ball. Oklahoma State would have to go in that game thinking, all right, Alan Bowman, this is another game for you where you're going to throw for 300 plus yards. and you're going to set up a run game. That's what's just going to have to happen. So I think it'd have to be an Alan Bowman and coaching masterclass for that to happen.
which
So
I wouldn't put out of the realm of possibilities. We've seen Mike Gundy do it time and time
yeah, but
again.
if you think I'm not hedging, right, you know,
Oh,
the giant Oklahoma State future that I have pending, when Oklahoma State makes it to the championship game, if you think I'm not hedging, you're crazy. You're
well, yeah,
crazy.
that's just betting responsibly, all right, which we do encourage you guys to do. But at the same time, like this Texas team, like I don't know, man. Like to me, they have not been dominant in Big 12 play, and I wanted to see that. The only games they dominated again in really were Baylor, who's bad, and then
Kansas
Kansas
without
against the
Jalen
backup
Daniels.
quarterback. Yep. And then BYU without Keaton Slovis. Like, yeah. Like, and I get it, the Big 12 is better than it's been in years prior. Sure. You're not obviously not a perfect team. I get that. But I would like to see a little bit more. I don't want to call it urgency, but
Actually,
just like,
it was also Sawyer Robertson for Baylor as well in that game. So their only 3 dominating wins were against all backup quarterbacks in the Big 12.
yeah.
So you're right about that. And
Yeah, and it's that Bama team they beat a long time ago, much different Bama team than played. If you played them again, I think Bama looks way better than Texas does right now.
I think Bama's favored by Bama was favored by a touchdown in that game. I think Bama's favored by more than a field goal in that game.
Yeah.
In Tuscaloosa. In Tuscaloosa.
So we'll see. Obviously, I hope we'll see. But for Iowa State, like, don't they lost? Yeah, they lost the past 2 weeks to Kansas, or the past no, that was 2 weeks ago. That's to Kansas, and then Texas and Oklahoma. Like those are 3 really good Big 12 losses. You have Kansas State next week, which could be another tough game, but I think this season is still a success for Matt Campbell. Like you lost your quarterback to crazy circumstances. You found a guy as a redshirt freshman Rocco Beck we believe in. I know you believe him as well. Iowa State fans, like the expectation for this program was not crazy high, and they've they've beaten the teams they should have beaten, except in the out of conference. Okay, Iowa was different or Ohio was different, but yeah, I don't know. I think there's progress here that's very evident, and the people that were like, oh, that Matt Campbell's done, he's washed up, whatever. Like, no, he's still a really good coach. He
I
still
agree.
is.
Let's talk UNC at Clemson. Clemson winning by 11, 31-20. I'm not going to say Clemson was like overly impressive in this game. The defense was, though, I think. Kind of made Drake May. If it wasn't for the fact that Caleb Williams also looked not so great this week, I think there would be a lot more talk about, who's that #1 overall draft pick. Like, can Drake May even have a shot? Because I think Caleb Williams did not play so well this week, I think they both are kind of like getting that hit. So, yeah, I mean, Clemson getting the job done. We both took a -6.5 to win this game. So credit us. A little pat on the back there. Pat on the back. Once again, I mean, North Carolina's going in this game next week, traveling to NC State. That's a tight line, I think. What is it, 4.5? That's a tight line. That's a tight line for a North Carolina State team that is playing the best football that it has all season. With, by the way, Brennan Armstrong back at the helm, playing good football. That is an interesting game. I am very intrigued to see if NC State can pull that off and cash in North Carolina under 8.5 wins that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know.
mean,
I this game was weird again. Like Clemson just struggles to win football games. No, it didn't bite him in this game. Turnovers, red zone. Like, what are we doing here? It's the same shit, different toilet here for Clemson. Now this one it didn't bite him in the butt
they
because North
ran the
Carolina
ball
also
55 times. I love
yes,
that.
I do too. And Garrett Riley, credit to you for using Phil Maffa, who's been awesome, and Will Shipley, who's a stud, right? And obviously North Carolina ran the ball really well as well. But yeah, both these teams are just not as good as we thought they were going to be coming this year, or I think they could have been. And like this game was pretty mistake riddled, and like It's crazy. It's really crazy to see like a Dabo Sweeney coach team, and then oh my goodness,
Mac Brown.
I'm I'm sorry, Mac Brown. Yeah, Mac Brown coach team like mistake riddled, but Clemson needed this. They've kind of been on a 3-game winning streak right now, which is good for them, and they got South Carolina next week. And South Carolina's terrible, so they get finish 8-4. Obviously, super frustrating, but at the same time, like could have been worse. We were looking at them at 4-4, and we were like, is this team gonna go to a bowl game? Like, is
I don't
that
think that
actually gonna
was
happen?
ever a doubt. Like I think we knew they were going to a bowl game, but it was like it was kind of like, okay, this could be nuclear. Like these
Yeah,
boosters could be getting on Dabo Sweeney pretty dang hard after the season. You salvage it, you go 8-4, you make it to a bowl game, you win that 9-4. It's not as bad of a look, right? But at the same time, you went and you go hired your offensive coordinator because that was supposed to be the problem, right? You got the
you got
guy,
your 5-star quarterback.
you got the number one guy, you got your 5-star quarterback, and you lose to Duke, Florida State, Miami, NC State. If you lose at South Carolina, which by the way, that line is at a touchdown, so it's in odds makers' eyes that game it's a one possession game.
And Jesus, you never want to doubt Shane Beamer in South Carolina
Yeah,
because that's when you get got. The thing
especially
is
when he
like,
has a chance to make a bowl game.
yes, but the thing is like for both these teams, like there's the same flaws have been there for a couple years now, and are they gonna change? I don't know. Is Mac Brown gonna get rid of Gus Malzahn and whoever else he has calling plays back there on defense? And like for Clemson, is Dabo Swinney gonna change his wholesale philosophy and morals in life? And like to me, the answer is probably no on both those. And if that's the answer, then there is a limit to these programs, a ceiling for sure. And
I
programs that
agree.
should not have ceilings, Clemson and their NIL fund and their success as a program, and UNC and their NIL fund and recruiting base in the Southeast there. Like you have Drake May, and not that you're wasting him, but would like to see more, especially in the year the ACC's. I wouldn't say like it's not great. It's not elite. Like it's not elite, right? By any stretch of
Yeah,
imagination. A bunch of teams in tier two, and you would have hoped that UNC could have risen their way to the top of that. Obviously not though. It's Louisville and Jeff
yeah. I
Brom.
mean, say UNC loses to NC State, right? Which could happen. I looked at the line just now. It is at 2, by the way. Opened at 3. It's down to 2. Uh, you have North Carolina team 8-4, USC 7-5. You were to tell me that Drake May and Caleb Williams were going to combine to be 15-9 this year. That's crazy. That's crazy. And then
Yeah.
that's absurd to me. That's absurd to me. But alas, Gene Chizik probably gone. Right? I mean, I hope. I
Did I
mean,
say Gus Malzahn or did I say Gene Chiswick? I
I
think
don't
I might have
remember.
said Gus Malzahn. My
I don't know.
apologies to Gus Malzahn
I
and
mean,
UNC fans there.
the comment section will probably rock you for it if you did. So don't worry. We'll know if you did when we go back in the comments. Let us know. But let's move on. Let's go to another ACC game. Louisville at Miami. Who should have won this game? I don't know. I don't know if either team wanted to win this game. I thought Miami played pretty hard. I thought Louisville did just enough, and they had one good play with Kevin Coleman in the fourth quarter when they needed it, when two Miami DBs just ran into each other. Which, by the way, week after week, I know we've been saying that like Cam Kitchens and Williams are like really, really good safeties. And preseason, we thought that they were NFL caliber. As the weeks go on, I don't know, like I'm not gonna put them in that elite tier.
Here's my take on it. I think the safety is a very high leverage position in terms of like if you miss your assignment, everybody knows you miss your assignment. And to be honest, like on some of these big like long runs and whatever, like there are linebackers not filling holes. There are D linemen, Ruben Bain, who's been really good all year, kind of getting washed down. Like I think they're putting a lot of positions to make plays and a lot of responsibilities put on them. And maybe they are not elite first round level guys like we thought they were, but I still think they're fine ACC players. I don't think they're the problem. They're not the reason why they lost this game. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Van Dyke, I thought played pretty well. I was not
He
expecting him
played
to play well, and
valiantly. That's what I'll call
yeah,
it. I thought he played really hard.
so I didn't think this was a terrible effort from Miami, and we both were on Louisville. In fact, Louisville was on Dawson's Diner even, so we were all over Louisville, both of us, and they won this game, but Miami could have won. Of course, Xavier Restrepo on that almost converted Hail Mary. That would have been crazy. It was good for my fantasy squad. I was I had
The
Xavier
extra
Restrepo.
6 points.
Those extra like 6 points. Got a shot to win that thing championship week for me in that league. So that's pretty awesome. But in general, I thought I'll say it again. It was a good effort from this Miami team. But once again, they also lose a close game. Once again, they lose at home. They drop to 6-5. This is not a Mario Cristobal's on the hot seat segment. It is not. But next year, let's start seeing some improvements, right? I think they got some boys up front on both sides of the ball. Let's see some improvements.
What I'll say about Mark Crispo is we all know his recruiting prowess. And to be honest, I thought he did a really good job putting together a staff, especially at the coordinator level. Right. But like on game day, like in a 1-score game, like he's gonna lose to some good coaches in the ACC. Right.
That
Jeff
timeout was
Brom,
bad.
I take yeah. And like what are we doing? Like on game day, like you don't have a ton of responsibility. You do have a ton of responsibilities, but at the same time, like your number one priority is clock management and like making sure everyone's like lined up and formation or whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like with the resources Miami has, I would love Mario Cristobal. And he'll never do it. And like, I don't know if he should do it as a guy that runs a program, but like bringing a guy that's strictly job is to game manage and help him with that until he learns how to actually do it. But
That's crazy.
yeah,
That's so funny.
that
Yeah.
would be nuts. That would be nuts to hire like an analyst guy to do that. Like, or not, I guess analysts can't be on the field, but like that'd be nuts. That would
Yeah.
be
I mean, at
nuts,
some
man.
point you gotta look at yourself and think, like, what do I need to do? How can I put my team in the best position to win? Right. And that's currently why Jimbo Fisher is unemployed. Now, I mean, it's hard to say you're unemployed when you're getting paid $7.5 million per year for the next 7 or 8 years or whatever it is. But the point still stands, right? Win your team games, right? Sure, win Monday through Friday. And that's when majority of games are won, right? They're won Monday through Friday, right? In the film room, on the practice field, in the summers, right? But there are certain things that you can do as a head coach to maximize the effort that your team's putting in on the weekdays, the talent of the players that you have around you. There's a way to maximize that because Miami is the more talented team than Louisville. I believe that. I do believe that. But Louisville has been a better team this year,
Yeah.
and they're way better coached. And it showed up in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, I thought I will say about Louisville though, like Plummer played really well. I thought, right? Either one interception, whatever. You're gonna get that with Jack Plummer. But like 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. They spread the ball around a ton. Thrash obviously had his. He missed on a couple times. Obviously, you like to get him a little bit more involved. But Correndo, man, he's been awesome for 3 straight days, 3 straight games. He's been awesome. And against Florida State, like, because obviously Louisville plays Kentucky next week. Florida State plays Florida. They both have no ACC teams. Like this is the championship was decided. Louisville's got a chance to win that game for sure. And to be honest, like being in the top 10 in November for Jeff Brown in year one is awesome. Now, are they a top 10 team? I don't know. But at the same time, like they deserve to be up there with everybody else. And that is awesome for Jeff Brown there.
SMU at Memphis. This was an awesome game. We were both on SMU to win the game. But guess what we were also both on? Memphis plus 7.5. And did we middle that?
Middle.
Middle. That's exactly what we did. Final score, SMU 38, Memphis 34. There was 900 total yards of offense in this game. And when there's 900 total yards of offense and the over 66 is on Dawson's Diner, you are cashing that. Now, it took a fourth quarter. It took a fourth quarter and it took a fourth quarter touchdown drive from Memphis for that to cover. But I mean, what are we talking about here? Seth Hennigan was awesome. Surprisingly, Memphis did not run the ball that well with Blake Watson, who's been so good all year. So I guess that's a credit to SMU's front seven. And Preston Stone did enough that last drive that they orchestrated where they just shaved off like 6 minutes off the clock or 5 minutes, whatever that was, scoring that touchdown and having Memphis basically needing to score two touchdowns in order to come back in that game. So, well, actually, I guess Memphis missed that last extra point. So it would have been a touchdown and a field goal, but they missed the extra point. So then they had to go get a touchdown, whatever. Doesn't matter. Great job by Preston Stone. Great job by Brett Lashley. Yeah, Seth Hennigan had a game. 402 yards passing. Guy was slinging the ball around the yard. So this SMU defense, I feel like, can get got. Now SMU plays Navy next week. I would assume they win that game. They go to the American Championship. But they got to play either Tulane, whose defense is pretty dang good this year. It has been awesome. Or they got to play UTSA, whose offense has been absolutely buzzing with Frank Harris. And Jeff Traylor's got those boys absolutely riled up. Unfortunately, Memphis is eliminated from the American Conference Championship hopes, but they still had a good season. They're 8-3 right now. They can win next week's game. They could go 9-3. Even before that, that's a pretty good season. You know, it's a pretty good season. So, and the outlook with the AAC next year, with SMU leaving to the ACC, there's a potential chance for Memphis to do some damage next year. So I say they keep building on it. Seth Hennigan will be back unless he hits the transfer portal and goes to a higher level program. I don't think he does that. I think he can get his money right where he is and be a stud because that's what he's been this year. So I've really liked him. Really, really liked him. So any thoughts on this game from yourself?
For sure. I think you nailed most of the talking points about the game for sure. We talked about SMU and its ability to attract talent in the transfer portal, namely Texas talent wanting to come back home. And we saw LJ Johnson and Kamar Wheaton, two guys, highly rated running backs, transfer portal guys, both from the state of Texas, like played really, really well. And LJ Johnson on the last drive was huge for SMU. Right, he made plays, ran the ball, let him turn clock, and extend that lead. Obviously, Memphis did the backdoor cover there, which was huge for us. We love that. And for the over, we love that as well. But yeah, I just think like Preston Stone's a guy. Like this, the SMU moving the ACC, they got a real shot. They got a real shot. Now, obviously, job's not finished here. They got to go beat Navy, they mentioned. They're going to play a pretty darn good team, I think. Like we talked about the AAC. Sure, like the bottom half is not really that competitive. But the top four teams, Tulane, SMU, UTSA, and Memphis, are pretty good. Especially like they're top 40 teams, top 45 teams in the country, I believe. And they're playing like it. And Memphis, obviously at home, you'd love to win this game. But you didn't get it done against a really good SMU team. And it happens. It happens.
Yeah, I agree. And look, LJ Johnson was bred for this game. And the reason being, you get up at SMU late in the fourth quarter. Who do you turn to? None of the kids. If you don't know Texas football, you don't know Cy-Fair, where LJ Johnson went to high school. That is a gritty, grind, pound the rock school. We're talking about running the ball 50 times a game, just lining up under center in I formation, wishbone, whatever it is they run. He's touching the ball 35 times, so he is groomed for that position. He's a large human being, and he did well. Was it 21 carries, I think? A lot of those coming in the second half, 115 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, this is a really good win for SMU. Really good win. Kudos to us for middling this. Kudos to the Dawson's Diner for having the over in this game. Great game. I really enjoyed this game. This was a fun game to watch. Back and forth. Lots of scoring. Lots of fireworks. It was awesome.
Real quick here, does Rhett Lashley get some hot seat, or not hot seat talk, but like coaching carousel talk? Right, Mississippi State, I've heard his name come up.
Potentially, yeah.
But
potentially. But also too, SMU's has just became a really good job.
Yeah, but at the same time, like since we talked about Cincinnati was moving and we saw our guy go from there to Wisconsin
Yeah.
and
Okay,
Luke
but let me
Fickle.
ask you this. Like
Different. Yeah,
with
I get it. I
SMU
get it.
moving
I
to
get
a
it.
power conference, like okay, so I'm gonna take the Texas A&M job after this. I don't think he's a candidate for the Texas A&M job. He could be. I don't know. But let's say the next best job that's available right now, probably Michigan State. If you had to ask me, maybe UCLA. Because SMU's in a power conference now, with those boosters and where they're
Yeah.
located, I think SMU is actually a better job. Like you have a better chance to succeed at SMU than you do at Michigan State.
I no, I agree, and that's why I kind of brought it up because I think they're gonna go in the ACC and like really compete, really compete there. And I love their addition to the ACC because where they are located, who else in Texas is in the ACC? It's just
No
them.
one.
I get it. There's a lot of other competition in the state of Texas for recruiting, but like to me that matters, right? And like I don't know, I think SMU for sure program on the rise here. They're gonna go in and compete right away. Preston Stone's a guy. They got the talent on this roster for sure.
Absolutely. Next up, UNLV at Air Force -3. And what did we say? The wrong team was favored. Yeah, and that was the case. Now Air Force was up, and they were up in the third quarter. But you know what Barry Odom said? He said, I do not care at all. So Zach Larry was not playing for Air Force, by the way. So actually credit them. They put up 27 points. That was way more than I expected.
They put on a nice
They're
game plan early on,
they
especially.
they really put on a nice game plan right there. So, but UNLV moves to 9-2, and we cashed the Dawson's Diner pick +3.5, and we both cashed taking UNLV +3 and for them to win straight up. Uh, it did take a late valiant effort from UNLV to pull this one off, but oh, did you see that fake punt? That was awesome. There was no reason to go for a fake punt like inside like the 40 or whatever. It was like 4th and 15, and the punter, like, he got it and he was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this because everyone's covered. And the gunner was like 1-on-1. And he's like, let me just like throw a zipping dart to the gunner right there in between the safety, or like not the safety, but I guess like the guy who's on the gunner. And incredible catch for a first down. Ended up leading to that field goal, which put them, gave them a 4-point lead. But more importantly, it milked the clock in the fourth quarter. It was awesome. There was no reason to do that at all. And let me tell you, Barry Odom would have gotten rocked for that if they did not get that. And Air Force went down to go score and win the game. So I will say, Barry Odom, that was a little sketch. That was a little sketch because also your defense was balling out. Your defense was balling out. There was no
Yeah.
reason to do that at all. So it was awesome. It was awesome. I love fake punts like that. And yeah, this is a fun game. I enjoyed watching this game. So I know this was probably a lot of people's third or fourth game if they were watching multiple games at the same time on their screens, but I really like this one a lot.
Yeah, UNLV stands alone right now at the top of the Mountain West. Awesome for Barry Odom in year one, exceeding expectations. Maybe as a stud. I think we've known that for a couple weeks now, and this is just more proof of that. Really awesome. The Mountain West shaped up not exactly how I thought it would. Right, Air Force, you thought was a wagon early on. They might still play for it. Boise State's still in somehow. San Jose State, look at them go. But Fresno State and San Diego State obviously have been super disappointing. More so Fresno State as of recently. But yeah, this is awesome. I mean, UNLV went on as dogs. Air Force had a beautiful second half or second quarter. I think that was 5 scoring drives in a row at some point there. And when they get cooking, man, luckily at halftime kind of saved UNLV. They could catch their breath, figure out what happens with the option. That's the thing though. Like Barry Odom's not used to seeing that option. This is his first year in the Mountain West. Right? He's been in the SEC, for a long time now. And like that's what I didn't think about it, but until they jumped on him early, I was like, oh wow, like this is new for Barry Odom. And credit to them, they adjusted and they adjusted well. They got Mavia going. And yeah, they stopped them. And yeah, I think this is awesome for UNLV. Obviously, hopefully it's winning in. I believe obviously winning in for them.
Yeah,
But I
I
think
think
that
they can still get absolutely screwed by tiebreakers if they lose because San Jose State they put that's their last game, right? San Jose State.
yep. Which is another surging team in the Mountain West too, San Jose State.
Yeah, and a team that again we've talked about San Jose State. They played a really tough out of conference game and they caught some teams early in the Mountain West that were really good, including Air Force. So I on the surface you're like, oh, San Jose State team's like so or whatever, but they're a good football team. They gave Fresno State the business last week. Yeah, did they struggle with San Diego State a little bit this past week? Yes, but did they get the job done ultimately? Also, yes. Could they give UNLV some problems potentially? Haven't gotten a chance to dive into that matchup because I'm still celebrating the Dawson's Diner victory that was UNLV plus 3.5. So yeah, big stuff for UNLV. I hope they win out 10-2, 11-2 Mountain West champ. Like what bowl game do they get? Like they probably get a pretty decent bowl game, right?
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
their two losses being Fresno State
and
on the
Michigan.
road and Michigan.
But by the way,
And
this is
now
beefing up Michigan's resume,
it is.
which is awesome.
It literally is, which is crazy, which is crazy. So
And people knock them for not having a tough out of conference schedule. Okay,
yeah,
that's
come on,
ridiculous. You're just
that's
ignoring UNLV and Barrowdom. No, all seriously though, but for Air Force, like they're still in it. Okay, like they play Boise State next week. Yes, it's in Idaho. That's tough. But and honestly, Spencer Danielson, right, the interim there for Boise State, has the boys cooking a little bit. All right, and wouldn't that be crazy? An interim
well,
coach led team
it's
with
winning in for Air Force, right? Because they have the tiebreaker over
and
San Jose State, and then they would
and
have beaten
Boise
Boise
State.
State. Yeah,
I believe Boise State is also has I think San Jose State is technically eliminated. Actually, no,
I don't think so.
I think
No,
it's
because
still,
they would
I'm
have the
sorry.
tiebreaker over
Yes.
UNLV. I don't know how that tiebreaker works. I think they
No,
still
but
have a chance.
Air Force and Boise State both beat San Jose State. So it's winning in for Air Force, Boise State, and UNLV. For all four of those teams. The winner of those two teams, those two games, are going to play each other next week. If that makes sense.
Really, no matter what. So if Boise State
Yes.
and San Jose State win, those are the two teams playing the Mountain West Championship.
Yes. Because
That
Boise
sounds
State,
illegal. That sounds so illegal. That'd be terrible. That'd be terrible. Not
yeah,
terrible, but
but
like UNLV and Air Force kind of deserve it, I think, at this point.
it sucks that Larry's gone. I don't think they're going to get him back either. But they found ways to score in that first half, so they can do it again. It's Boise State. But yeah, this is another Mountain West just awesome game. The Mountain West have been super entertaining. There's a reason we've covered a lot of Mountain West this year, particularly the top half of it, right? Throw
Yeah.
Wyoming and Fresno State in there. We've covered all those teams. And yeah, it's good stuff there.
These
Either
are
not only
two.
they're adding Washington State and Oregon State.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of adding, I guess, like gonna be playing conference games against them.
Yeah. I mean, I believe there's quite a few seniors on this UNLV team, so it'll be interesting to see how they respond. But the state of Nevada has quite a bit of talent. So the fact that it's never been utilized, I mean, we've seen it. They've had a successful basketball program before, right? Like we've seen UNLV that they have potential, right? So if Barry Odom can maximize that, awesome for the Mountain West, awesome for the Rebels. I'd be very happy with that. Let's talk upset meter. We cashed on one. So for the record, if you're looking at this graphic, right, cold, mild, sweating, steaming, piping are our ratings for how hot the upset meter is. You put 4 teams on here. They all got to be 10-point favorites at least. And one of them lost. Granted, it was the one that we thought was least likely to happen of the ones that we picked. JMU falling short, losing to App State, and now App State playing themselves into a really good spot to where they could come out of that Sun Belt West and win that thing. We're East or I think they're in the West. Ironically, I'm not sure. Either way, UTSA blows out USF. They're hot right now. Frank Harris had 6 or 7 total touchdowns in that game, 100 yards rushing, and 400 yards passing. Holy smokes, did he ball out on senior night? Mizzou, close one with Florida. Close one with Florida. Almost didn't pull
Against
that one out.
Max Brown in Florida.
Yeah, Max Brown. All of a sudden he gets the call there. But Mervis once again stepping up and being a stud and drilling a game-winning field goal because we've seen that before
Harry
this
Mees
year.
is awesome.
Yeah, he's a dog. And then TCU blew out Baylor. So, that was a blowout. Baylor is a not good team. Dave Aranda is likely getting fired this year. Now, I feel weird because I still think he can succeed there. I still think he can succeed there. I think it might be a little bit too hasty to fire him this year, even though it has been a cataclysmic nuclear explosion of a year for Baylor. They have been terrible.
And the frustrating part is defensively has been bad. Now, yes, your offensive quarterback's been in and out, whatever. Defensively is where you've really given up a lot of points. And that is Dave Aranda's specialty, right? And like, I don't know. I'm a huge Dave Aranda guy. I think he will go somewhere else and succeed if he does get canned eventually. But yeah, it's a shame for this year as a guy. I was really expecting that what they were going to do is they were kind of overhauling the roster and how they were playing. And I think it kind of backfired in their face defensively. And yeah, it's not been good. And they have not been able to recover.
Yeah, I agree. It's been pretty terrible. But it was a good win for TCU. I mean, they looked good doing it.
Yeah. Hoover, man. Hoover's a dog.
Hoover is a dog. Now, I want to go back to talking about
400-yard
James
game for
Madison.
him.
This is the NCAA's moment, I guess, to kind of rub it in everyone's face. Everyone that was screaming for
Fuck
JMU
those guys, man. That's awful.
Yeah, it sucks that the NCAA gets this one because this was a win for the NCAA, right? This is a win for them.
And it's really not like the thing is, it's not like you cannot base James Madison's 12-game season, everybody else's 12-game season in the Sun Belt on one game. I get it. Like, yep. App State won this game. This does not take anything away from App State and the turnaround they have had there. Really impressed with that. They went in, they got a road win where College Game Day was awesome. Awesome. They're playing really good football right now. But at the same time, like, James Madison has earned the right to play in the championship game. Now, it's good for App State for taking advantage of, the Sun Belt East and going in there and probably going to be able to play. Going to be actually, no, Old Dominion can technically still catch them, but going in there probably play Troy next week. But I don't know. Frustrating. Sorry, you can go.
Yeah, but so of the 4, TCU, Missouri, UTSA, JMU that we put on here, we only got one upset correct. The only other 2 that we could have gotten or putting on here was Auburn losing New Mexico State, and then Fresno State losing New Mexico. So the New Mexico schools having a day.
We love it.
So I guess we missed those. Never in a million years would I put Fresno State on this list for upset meter. I didn't think there was just any chance that they were losing that game. The Auburn game, we could have made the argument, but it was a huge line. It was over 20. Auburn was at home. Like, this was, I don't know. That was a bad loss for them. I guess we missed out on that. We could have, I guess, had that in there, but I don't feel so terrible about not picking that. But we moved to
and like context matters there. Like to what I was thinking was New Mexico State was like they have a conference championship to play eventually, right? Like, I didn't think they were going to empty the chamber, and turns out they didn't need to actually empty the chamber, but they went out and they committed to winning this football game and they got it done. So some schools don't do that, and I guess I misread Jerry Kill, and I know I should know better than to count out Jerry Kill, but yeah, that was shocking for sure.
Yeah, we move of the 32 teams that we put on upset meter. Actually, that might be 38. I might have forgotten to update that. No, I think it's 6. I think it's 32. I'm almost positive because we started doing this week 5, right? Yeah. We started doing this week 5, so it's 6 out of 32. That puts us about 19%. Inherently, the average spread of these games is about 13-14. So if the implied odds is that We should only be about 14%. So we're pretty good. We're hitting our mark. We're hitting our mark. And not all of these games are necessarily our favorite upset picks. Sometimes we just like to talk about these games as well. And we put them, see where they'd fall in the upset meter. And all of these were mild anyways, so we didn't expect to go crazy. But yeah, feels good to get one. Feels good to get one. But it just sucks that it had to be James Madison. It sucks that
They've
it
been a
had to be
wagon,
James
man.
Madison.
They were a wagon.
They were a wagon, man.
It's a shame.
R.I.P. the Duke's
It's gonna
undefeated
take
season.
away. Yeah.
Tough. Thank you guys. That is our week 12 recap. We appreciate everything you guys do, whether that means liking the video, whether that means subscribing, which you should do both of those things. Like the video, like the content. If you like seeing this, we post twice a week during the season. It's previews and recaps. In the off season, it's a whole lot more. Subscribe so you are there for all of that and more. Again, the support has been awesome. This channel keeps growing day after day. We love interacting with you guys too on Twitter at the Redshirt Soft, Gmail at the Redshirt Sophomore, gmail.com. For any questions, we'll get to mailbag, especially in the off season. Got a couple questions in the queue there. And of course, like and subscribe and comment on YouTube. Let us know, were there games we missed? Did you agree with us, disagree with us? Injury news, things we messed up, got wrong, whatever it is. We love interacting. We love all the attention that we can get because we are attention whores. No, we just love talking college football. Anything for you, CD?
No, you mentioned it. Thank you guys so much for the support. Enjoy it, man. This is our second to last recap in the regular season here. Rivalry week here. If you're listening in the video, comment what teams you want us to preview. We got a bunch of good options. We're going to figure out and try to narrow down what we want to preview. And yeah, it's going to be a great week. Thanksgiving week is always fantastic.
Absolutely. And we will see you guys in the next one.